What's going on, everybody? It's David Piatek and Lourdes Fernando. Today we're talking about the termite inspection. It is a requirement per the VA, but we're going to break down what that looks like, the forms it needs to be filled out on, and some of the recent changes that happened with this termite inspection and who can pay for it. How you doing today, Lourdes?
I'm doing great.
That's awesome. So, have you come across this termite inspection as a hindering point for veterans looking to purchase a property?
Yes, and it's one of the so out here in the Midwest, where I'm at, there we have seen some termites.
Yep.
We have seen that. I just did an inspection last week, and we start to see them coming through, which was kind of crazy. So yes, they're out here, and have I seen it as far as any issues or pushback on a property? And we have. It's under $100 for this test, and I have seen sellers say that they didn't want to accept our offer because we had to have the sellers pay for that termite inspection. But there has been some changes, right, David?
Oh yeah. So let me pull up this VA circular. So this is the thing with the VA home loan is that lenders have what's called the VA handbook, right? Which you could basically access online. It's at the VA's website. They don't hide it. It's not a secret. But with the VA handbook, there's also these things called circulars, which are basically updates to the VA home loan, and they're just specific documents. So that's why even these days, we'll talk with a listing agent. They'll be like, "Oh no, sellers don't want to pay for this. We don't want to do this deal." And we're like, "What are you talking about? That rule has changed." So let me pull up that circular so you guys take a look at that. So essentially, what this circular does is the pest inspection fees and repair costs. Now, so they kind of lump this together, and we've done separate videos on the repair costs, but I'm going to go over that. So basically, what they said that historically, VA home loans, the termite inspection had to be paid for by someone other than um, the veteran, but they changed it and say, look, if this is such a big deal for the community, we're going to go ahead and allow veterans to be able to pay for the termite inspection. And like you mentioned, Lourdes, normally it's under $100. And so just shop around when you're looking for a termite inspection because sometimes they can be like 250, 300. And I'm like, for what? How long does a termite? Well, I guess it depends on where you're at. And we're going to kind of show you guys a map of what that looks like. But it just really depends on where you're at and what these termites look like, as far as like how many of them are in the area, because it
Yeah.
does cause structural damage. And have you seen that before?
Yeah, we've seen some posts that have some significant damage due to termites. We can see the tunnels, and
Oh
it's
wow.
kind of scary because, like, would this house fall? Probably because you have these insects that are eating away at the support beams.
Wow. Yeah, and that's why sometimes from a lending side, we if they come back and show that hey, this inspection has visible damage, then we might need to get an engineer's report. So that is an
Wow.
additional cost. So you have to be careful of that. And one question that we do get a lot is what does this termite inspection look like? What form does it need to be on? So let me share with you guys what this form actually is and what it looks like. So this is kind of the basis of it. It's the wood destroying insect inspection report. So basically, all the information goes on here from the company, their license, the inspector, and then this section here, inspection findings. So if it's section A, no visible evidence of wood destroying insects was observed, that's a positive thing. Now, sometimes, from my experience, is that from clients telling me, and I also had to do one for when I used my VA loan, is that they'll say, well, the inspector only came in for a couple minutes and they left, while other times they spend longer time there. Have you seen buyers go to these inspections?
Usually if the if the buyer needs to pay for it, so we still in a contract in our state, we're able to put on there that we want the sellers to cover that still, even though
Yep.
now anybody can pay for it. So we put that on there if during the negotiation process it is not agreed upon, then usually during the home inspection, we'll get the termite inspection as well and knock it out at one time. That way, they're in the property, and most of the inspectors do the termite inspections, or they can say if this is termites or not. So So usually they get to see what that looks like. Just like with during the home inspection that we had last week, we saw that they're starting to come into the property and they're building their little tunnels and they don't like light and they don't like this and they don't like that. But we start to see that. So we got to, get some eyes on. And then even during the home inspection, when we could see the damage in the support beams for the little tunnels that they start to build, the client gets to see that. So yeah, but one thing that we have gotten some kickback on it is if it has a garage and it's not on the sheet, then it'll get kicked back and it won't get approved. Can you talk a little bit more about that, David?
Yeah, for sure. So additional structures that are part of the appraised value, you also want to make sure you get the termite inspection done on. Otherwise, they have to go back out there and they charge another fee to do that. So wherever like there is whatever structure is part of the appraisal process, make sure you're getting one, especially like Laura's mentioned, like a detached garage. It's a pain. Sometimes it'll be like a shed, but the shed is going to count towards the appraisal. Same thing. You want to just get that termite inspection completed on there. Now, when it comes to the remedy of these things, now on here, you guys are going to see in section 3 is any recommendations that they have. So if they find that there are prior evidence or even current evidence, like you mentioned, like they're building the tunnels as you guys are looking at them, they will make a recommendation and you will have to complete that recommendation prior to closing. Now, in that same VA circular, and we've talked about this before, is that veterans have the option of doing escrow accounts, which is basically a holdback for any repairs that are needed. I'm not an attorney to help you structure it out, but typically the lender's the one that holds it. Title companies can hold it as well, which is an important note to make because a lot of title companies won't hold it. The
Mhm.
lender's going to have to do the escrow holdbacks, but this is a safety concern. So anything
Yeah.
that's a safety concern from an escrow holdback perspective, meaning like there's an issue found, it costs $500, and you want to opt to do it after you close, or so post possession issues, you
Yeah.
can't do them if there's safety issues. And termites are a safety issue because if it's structurally damaged, then you're going to have issues. Now, when you do these recommendations, what's going to happen is the lender is going to ask, well, it depends on how you structure it. If you submit the termite inspection report to the lender showing that there's termites, a recommendation, then they're going to require that it remedied, and then you need an updated termite inspection. The other option you have is that if from the listing or buy side you see that, you remedy it and then you provide a clear report. You can just provide the clear report to the lender, and they can just use that to then move forward. So just kind
Okay.
of make sure you read it, because we've had people submit things to us. They don't read it. They're like, here you go. Everything is good to go. And we're like, wait a second. You submitted this. Now there's a bunch of issues and red flags that come out with that. So, and another piece with that also is that you do have to provide not only the report, but you also have to provide an invoice for that termite inspection. Now, one thing to note when it comes to that is that some lenders won't issue the initial closing disclosure when you don't have the invoice. Sometimes they could just put an arbitrary number in there and just send it out, maybe higher than what it is, the cost is actually going to be, just so they could get the CD out to you, right? Which is the closing disclosure. And if you haven't bought a home before, basically two parts to that: initial loan, or your loan estimate, which is an estimate of fees, because lenders really don't know what the fees are going to be going in. And then a closing disclosure is where the numbers have been finalized by all the third parties, right? Like the appraisals come in, titles come in. We have all the numbers from the title company, and we also then we're able to bring that back together and provide that to you to let you know, hey, look, this is roughly what the closing costs are going to be on that closing disclosure. And you do need it 3 business days prior to closing, so it's a pretty important deal. Have you seen, Lourdes? Have you seen deals fall apart because of a termite inspection?
Just depends if they have termites. So one of the kind of iffy ones is if the property's as is and it's not like super updated. I do get a little bit more pushback with those ones compared to just regular traditional, like if like, oh yeah, we don't have any termites, we're good. You know, those were
Right.
fine. But the ones that yeah, on the other side, the as is, we can get a little bit of pushback from those ones.
Okay, I got you on that.
Are a little
So
bit
let me
older. Yeah.
Yeah, and so let me share. I'm going to share my screen one more time to show you guys a infestation map, right? So this is also shared with the VA, so you guys could take a look at this. So basically, this just shows you an outline of where they have heavy, very heavy, moderate to heavy, slight to moderate, and none to slight. So in some of these, it's absolutely mandatory to get a termite inspection. And in others, people will argue, like, why do I have to get a termite inspection when there's no visible termites? So a lot of it comes down to the underwriter as well, because as you see in these maps, it's not like clearly lined, right? So you might be somewhere on the line of this. But if you do have in a slight to moderate, you still need to get, and above, you need to get a termite inspection for sure. In the other areas, again, it's going to be based on both what the appraiser sees in the property and what the underwriter is going to require. A lot of mortgage companies have an overlay where they just blankly say, like, look, every property we do needs it. Now, the only exception to that policy is on condominiums on the second floor or above. You don't have to get a termite inspection typically. I have been doing thousands of deals. I haven't seen that required. Oh, I've seen it required on the 2 unit, like second floor above, but you just ask and tell the underwriter, like, hey, this isn't required, and they just remove it. But again, if you're working with a really big company, they may just have a general, hey, this is our requirement, no ifs, ands, or buts. So you do have to be aware of those things. But I think just getting a termite inspection for peace of mind is is good, because listen, structural issues are not cheap. Okay, they can be very expensive to be able to mitigate. And again, if you get a termite inspection and it's heavy in termites, because I've seen deals fall apart because of termite inspections.
Yeah.
Okay, just because working across the country, especially down south, you may just have massive amounts of erosion that happened and they don't mitigate it. Same thing with new construction. New construction properties typically require the ground to be treated for termites. So you typically wouldn't get a termite inspection on new construction. You would just get verification from the builder that they treated the ground for termites, so they're not coming into the house. And even if you do a refinance for like a cash out refinance where an appraisal is required, a termite inspection will be required. The only time it's not required, a couple cases. One, if you're doing an interest rate reduction refinance loan, you don't need to get a termite inspection. And the second one is that if you do VA assumable loan, you don't need to get one, even if you're in a heavy termite infested area. So my personal recommendation is to just go ahead and get one anyways, because again, structural issues can be very expensive on that piece, because again, we don't want you to spend more money than you have to after
Mhm.
closing. And we did a whole video on home inspections. Same thing. The VA doesn't require a home inspection, should I say, but they still encourage you to be able to get that. And that's what we do. A lot of our videos are focused on, is educating you as the veteran to be able to educate yourself on the process, so then you're not making these costly mistakes down the road
Right.
on that piece. So yeah, so thanks everybody for joining us today. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.